Welcome back, and let's draw this T-Rex. Alright, grab your pencils and let's get ready to draw. Alright, so basically to start any drawing, you're going to break it down into the most simple shapes as you possibly can. So right now I'm just focusing on the top of the head, trying to get the top lip / jawline correct. Once I feel like the top of the head's done, then I move to the bottom jaw and neck area, just blocking in the basic shapes. I try to use light pencil pressure at this point, just because I can move things and erase if needed. The harder you press down, the harder it is to erase that line. I'm slowly whittling things down. So here I made the eye socket, then I put a placeholder for where the eye is. Everything is light pencil pressure at this point, so I can move it if I need to. As I get further along in the drawing, that's when I start putting in more detail, because if you put detail in early on, you might actually have to erase it and move the thing if it's in the wrong position. And trust me, we've all done that a time or two. Alright, so now I'm finishing up drawing in the last details like the teeth and stuff, and then I'll move on to blocking in just the shadowed areas. Now at this point, if you only have a 2B pencil and don't want to ink it, this is where you could start going heavy on the shading and more texture, putting as much detail as you can at this stage. Because now most of the dinosaur's head is basically laid out, so now it's just about putting in all the little details like scales and wrinkles and such. Just keep in mind, a good rule of thumb is whenever you put in a lot of detail in one area, you kind of want to be cohesive across the whole object. So if you're going to really detail out the face and put a bunch of scales in, you should probably detail out the whole entire body if it's a whole drawing. Sometimes less is more, but you do you. You can get a lot of illusion of texture with multiple layers. If you're trying to get the layer of scales to look rougher and tougher, sometimes more crisscross cross-hatching can do the trick. Since this will be a marker drawing at the end, I don't go crazy with the cross-hatching or the pencil detailing. So here you can see I'm finally inking in the drawing. Basically, I'm just going over the major parts that I liked from my pencil sketch. Now obviously at this point you can't really erase ink, so that's the beauty of having a pencil drawing that's pretty flushed out. You're essentially just tracing at this point the lines you made before. I like to go back and forth between inking first and markering first. To me it doesn't really matter, but I found sometimes that going over with ink first, you can get the major black areas down a little bit faster, and you're using a cheaper pen. I use micron Pigma, like number 3 chisel, and I'm able to get lots of black ink down, so I'm not wasting copic marker ink, which can be expensive. The more layers you put down, as far as like pencil, then ink, then marker, and then maybe back to ink, the less details that you had early on start to fade away, as far as each layer can kind of cover up and mask the layer before it. So just keep in mind, if you don't like it now, it might morph a little bit as it transitions into the next layer and the next layer. So right now, I'm not in love with this drawing, but it gets better the more layers of marker I put over the top of it. And the more shadows and the more grays and the more dark tones that I put in, it then comes together. So this drawing initially took me about 15 to 20 minutes to get to this point, the inking and marking part. Also took 15 to 20 minutes, so this whole drawing took me about 40 minutes, and I broke it down into a 8-minute something video for you. So at this point in the game, the inking is done, the drawing is done. It's basically a color book at this point. Feel free to color it in however you'd like. I like to go in with gray markers first and do more of the shadow areas, starting with a mid-level gray and then working lighter and then darker, pushing the values slowly both in directions. I kind of like to rather wade into the pool rather than jump into the deep end. So I'm slowly pushing the limits and getting darker darks and grayer and lighter lights. So I try to stick in the middle and then branch outwardly with my grays. If you have copic markers, I like to use cool Copic markers. typically start with a C5, which is a mid-level. They go numbered 1 through like 9 is the darkest gray, and then 10 would be black. So I usually stick with 5 at the beginning, and then go to 7, and then go to 3, and then come back to 9. And I don't really do a C1 because I feel like there's no point. My set is all odd numbers. What came with the Copic 72 set that I bought like 5 or 6 years ago. It also has a warm gray set, so there's cool grays and warm grays. A warm gray kind of has browner notes to it, where the cool gray has like bluer notes of color to it. That's why I like it for scales of a dinosaur. But the warm gray could also work for the underbelly, and I've used it for many of drawings. So it doesn't matter which levels of gray, just kind of stick with either one. You can bounce between the two, but I would recommend, if it's a cool drawing, sticking with the cool grays, but use whatever you have. So at this point, I pick a lighter color, like a brown or a tan, and then I cover the whole skin of the dinosaur just to get a base coat in. And from there, then I use pops of color wherever I feel like I want to. Essentially, this is a coloring book at this point. Color it however you would want to color your dinosaur. You don't have to do it exactly how I did it. I like the blues and greens and browns, but hey, maybe you want reds and oranges. So color it however you feel. So if you made it this far in the video and you like what you're drawing and you like what you see in the video, consider hitting that like button and leave a comment. What should I draw next? And if you're not subscribed, consider it. But yeah, from here on out, I'll just leave some music play, and yeah, cheers, and on to the next dinosaur.